So you're interested in learning everything there is to know about filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana. Well, thankfully, you've come to the right place. Let's get right into it. Welcome to the Ascend Finance YouTube channel, where we help folks understand the cost and qualification for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana. We actually built a free Chapter 7 calculator so you can estimate the cost, qualification, and pros and cons of filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana. Whether you live in a small town or a big city, the Chapter 7 calculator gives you specific results based on your information and zip code. Today, I'm going to cover a few things. First, it's going to be the cost to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana. Second, I'll go through how to qualify for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana. Third, I'll try to answer the question, are your assets protected if you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana? And fourth and finally, should you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana? Now, remember that this video is only for informational purposes and should not be construed as legal advice. As I'm also sure you're trying to research as much as you can right now, let's just make this short and sweet and get right into the first thing: how much it costs to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana. When it comes to filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy, there are several factors an attorney may consider in estimating a total all-in estimate to file. To clarify though, here's what an attorney actually may look at when they're trying to determine how much they may charge someone. So first, they may look at the complexity of the case. Second, the urgency for that person to file. Third, the years of experience for that attorney. Fourth, the actual cash flow of the client. So sometimes attorneys may be a little bit more flexible if they don't have as much money to pay or the income's lower. And then five, location. So I want to further go into each one real quick so we can explain them. So first, complexity of the case, right? So this generally is going to refer to whether or not you have any assets you protected when you file. So if the client ends up having assets, it may take the attorney longer to get the petition ready. So for urgency to file, whether you may have to file bankruptcy within a few days or months, an attorney may charge more or less depending on how much time they have to get it ready. And then attorney's years of experience, right? So this is going to be a little bit more straightforward. So if an attorney's been filing bankruptcies for more than 10 years versus someone that just started a year ago, they may actually be able to charge a bit more, but it really depends. And then fourth, the cash flow of the individual filing. So sometimes they may charge a smaller fee as a courtesy. Still, the average fee is usually charged regardless of the client's cash flow. Now, finally, the location. So this is actually more relative state versus state, as actually some states may have an average Chapter 7 fee of, let's say, $2,000 versus another state with an average of $1,200. Okay, so before I move on to the next part about qualifying for a Chapter 7, if you actually want to have an estimate for the total all-in cost, you can take our free Chapter 7 calculator below. You don't even have to add an email address to see the results. The idea is it gives you the cost, pros and cons, and whether you actually may qualify for a Chapter 7. Keep in mind, if you don't want to add any contact info, you can just select none of the above at the end, and you don't even have to add an email address. All right, so now let's dive in how to actually qualify for a Chapter 7. So there's going to be three main factors to understand when determining your ability to file Chapter 7. Income, expenses, assets. So those are going to be the three things I want you to remember when trying to understand qualification. So each state is going to have most likely an income limit set for your household size. So what that's going to be considered is the means test income limit. I'll actually put the income limit for this state on the screen, but keep in mind that the means test updates every so often. So that being said, taking our free calculator that's actually in the description can be helpful, as it's actually going to be most up to date with the means test data for estimating your qualification for Chapter 7. Alrighty, so now let's talk about expenses, as the means test has a couple of parts. The first part of the means test is mainly considering your gross income versus the income limit for the household size. Now, the second part generally considers your disposable income. Sometimes individuals may fail the first part of the means test by making too much money, but sometimes pass the second part because the court finds they may not actually have enough disposable income. And so when that's the case, you may find that you can qualify for a 7 even though you make more than the income limit. Now, finally, let's talk about how assets are actually really important to the Chapter 7 decision-making process. So although having assets may not impact your qualification, it may actually impact your decision to file. Almost every state has its own exemptions that filers can use. So they may want to utilize that to protect their assets from being liquidated. Now, the main assets I'd say that individuals are mainly concerned about are their home, or their cars. So let me kind of explain how that looks like it. Now, before I dive deeper into that and how they're all treated, I just wanted to say, like, if the video has ended up being helpful, or if you think it could be, a game changer for someone you know, let's light up that like button below. It seems that YouTube tends to rank videos with more likes, and we like to think that our video can help those dealing with this kind of stressful topic. So let's make it go viral and create a positive impact. Okay, now that we've covered how the assets may impact Chapter 7 from a high level, let's dive into more on how that all works. So there are what I'll call 2 E's that can help you estimate the risk of losing your assets when filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana. First, you're going to be looking at equity, and second, it's going to be exemptions. Now, one of the most common assets folks are worried about losing is their home, so I'll use that for this example. Now, at the time of the video, I believe the homestead exemption in Louisiana is around $35,000 for someone under the age of 65 and single. I'll put an article in the description though that'll have more up-to-date info on the homestead for Louisiana. But that said, let's say you have less equity than the estimated homestead of $35,000. Well, there's a chance it may be protected then. And then on the other hand, let's say you have $80,000 more than the homestead exemption for Louisiana. Well, then it may be at risk of being sold during the process. So what do you do then if you have more equity than the exemption allows and you don't want to lose your property? Well, ultimately, it's going to be your decision, but at that point, it may be helpful to consider alternative options. And I actually created a bunch of videos covering all those alternatives, but if you don't have a lot of time to watch those, you can just take our general debt options calculator that's linked below, which will break down the cost, duration, pros and cons of bankruptcy and alternatives. Okay, to answer the question, should you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Louisiana? Ultimately, everyone's situation is unique and it's going to be up to you, but let's say you're either feeling A, you have too much equity in a specific asset that you could maybe lose, or B, you're just not sure whether Chapter 7 is right for you, then feel free to take our Chapter 7 calculator below, estimate cost and qualification in Louisiana. Now, that said, if you're thinking, I do not have time to fill out a calculator right now, well, you're welcome just to call us. You can reach us at 833-272-3631, and we will try to answer all of your questions over the phone. We can help you understand the risk of losing assets, Chapter 7 qualification, pros and cons, and even alternative options so you can make the most informed decision. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you get out of debt cheaper, easier, and faster. Take care.